Good afternoon, everyone. We're very happy of being here today and introduce a little bit of Magis. We are sitting here at Magis in my office. We are in Torre di Mosta, which is a little town outside of Venice, where Magis is based since 2010. So let me tell you, first of all, the name of Magis. Magis is a word which comes from Latin, which means more than, is a comparative adjective. So when you make a sentence, when you make a comparison, means more than. And since the very beginning of Magis, we try to put this little extra something in the making of our products. My father, Enrico Perazza, without him, there would be no Magis. Magis started in 1976 by a strong passion of my father towards design. Even though he's not a designer as a background or an architect, but he really has a strong passion on design. Yes, this is where we are based, in the very open countryside. Approximately 30 miles east of Venice. From here, we take care of the project development, the engineering, production, and distribution. We have office. We have a distribution center of 15,000 square meters. So we ship everything out from here. We produce in Italy. Everything is made in Italy. We, as a company, we don't physically manufacture, but all of the production is contracted out to a network of partners, most of them in our region and in the region of Lombardy. This is all about Magis. Magis is design. We are a design company. Design to Magis is not just the design of a chair or a table. Design is the company culture. The design is the company culture which drives every single decision, every single action that we take in the daily life. To us, design is about teamwork. It's not just made by Magis and the designers, but also by all the people which are behind the scenes. Engineers, model makers, prototype. So is a joint effort, and Magis, for Magis, design is also about ideas, working on ideas. We believe that if there is no idea, there is no good design. As a company, we are very much technologically driven. Majority of our products starts because of our desire of experimenting materials, technologies. We use different materials and technologies. We use die-cast aluminum. We use injection molded plastics. We use today plastic which also are bio-based and recycled. And we like to experiment. These are the designers we work with. Well, I think we work with a very group of with an interesting group of designers. We have strong and very good relationship with all of them. It's a ping pong process. It's an open and very intense dialogue. With all of these designers, we are in contact daily and working on new ideas. This is the animal, which the mule is Ettore, which represents the essence and spirit of Magis, because the mule is humble, is an uphill trekking champion. It doesn't make noise, bray and neighs. It's not like the horse. So when we were considering which was the animal to represent Magis, we all agreed that this should have been the mule, Ettore. This is a quick overview on some of our products, just to highlight what Magis is and what Magis stands for. Bombo is a product which which has become an icon, a bar stool adjustable in height with gas piston and polypropylene. It's a product which marked a turning point in the history of Magis. It has been very successful because of many product placements and also because of being in the movies and on many TV shows. Bombo has been copied from many in many different situations from many different countries, but it's been copied, but I think never duplicated. So I think the original Bombo will always be the original Bombo. Air chair is the first chair designed by Jasper Morrison. I mean, with Jasper Morrison, we design many products, but the most important one is air chair. This is the first chair which has been manufactured with air molding technology, hence its name. Air molding is technology which enables to have hollow space within the cavity of the mold. That means that if you cut the leg in a section here, you will see hollow space. That means less material, shorter production cycle, less energy, so a sustainable product. Chair 1, designed by Konstantin Gricic in 2003. This is about die-cast aluminum. It has been a big challenge to manufacture this chair with this technology. Here, we really wanted to push the limit of the technology of die-cast aluminum. It has not been easy. I mean, from the concept of the chair to production stage, it took almost 3 years. So we've been through several different tests and trial runs. But today, Chair 1, I think, is a very iconic product and which represents well what Magis is about. Papi, designed by Eero Arnio in 2005, is one of the first items which are part of our kids collection. It's a collection which started because we thought there was a gap in the market of products for children of preschool age with good quality, with good design, but also with educational value. Stillwood, 2008, designed by the Burulek brothers, is a chair which combines wood, solid wood, the warmth of solid wood with metal, molded metal. Here you see all of the intermediate steps which are required to manufacture the back of a chair, starting from a thin layer of metal plate. You go through many intermediate steps. Spun, and Enrico will be talking more in details about the Spun, but Spun is about converting an existing product using the rotational molding technology into something consumer friendly and cost effective. You sit on the Spun, you go around in a full circle, so it's a lot of fun sitting on the Spun. And we did a lot of installations with the Spun chair at Milan Expo in 2015. We did in New York at Times Squares. Officina. So Officina is about the craftsmanship, is about wrought iron. Magis is very much technologically driven and uses sophisticated technologies, but since a few years, and Officina is the first example, we also looked at old fabrication processes, but not with a nostalgic approach. To the contrary, we looked at those technologies and trying to give a more modern and contemporary language. Officina is a large collection today, which is made of chairs, stools, sofas, and many options for tables as well. This is Brut collection by Konstantin Gricic, 2017. It started with a similar process as Officina. So the desire of experimenting and doing something new with an old fabrication process. This is about cast iron. Officina is more about the craftsmanship. This is more, Brut is more about the industrial process. Brut stands for raw, unfinished, but also recalls the lightness of sparkling wine. Burorama, it's a collection of lightweight stools and tables in aluminium. Burorama, as the name suggests, is about how we see the office, evolving, because the office can be indoor, but could also be outdoor use, could be under a tree. In fact, Burorama enables many different social and work situations. Burorama today also includes a shelving system. Well, this was the last product I wanted to show you, so I'll pass it over to Enrico. See you later.
Hi everyone. My name is Enrico Perin. I'm the design manager of Magis. First of all, I want to thank you very much for being here and listening to us. I want to also say it was almost 20 years ago when I was a student and I studied industrial design in Venice. And when I knocked at the door of Magis to ask for an internship, and well, today I'm here, I work close with some of the best designers in the world. So I feel lucky for that because my passion became my job. So that's fantastic. And it's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to share my experience with you guys. So I really hope you will enjoy it, okay? So how to make a design project? First, very easy. To make good design, you must be in two. Company from one side and designer from the other. But they have to go in tandem, okay? With a certain synchronism, but in our opinion is the company that has to choose the itinerary, because we strongly believe that there is no designer in the world that can best express himself if the company doesn't know where to go. Then important is also to have a good team around you, right? So good designers, intelligent technicians, clever engineers that hardly give up at the first difficulties. But most of all, this is crucial for us, every good design must start with a good idea. If a project doesn't start with a good idea, that's not design, that's a style exercise, okay? And how does the idea come to you, okay? Well, ideas do not come towards you. It's you that have to meet the idea. Looking at the empty spaces on the market, analyzing the old that is leaving and the new that is coming, okay? Trying to imagine future scenarios, okay? Sometimes idea for a project can start from a very small detail, from a material, from a combination of material, okay? And we always, very often like to do what we call the school trip, okay? So visits to different manufacturers to get inspiration, to understand more about new technologies or technique. We work with many designers. All of them have different signs, but we want them to recalibrate on the Magis measure, okay? We refuse the pret-à-porter designer. A design which is good for many companies is not for us. We demand a tailor-made design. tailored for Magis, very important. This is quite natural because we build the ideas and we brief it to the designers, okay? And generally, the process from the idea to the finished products could be long, sometimes very long. It's a long journey, okay? And normally can easily take a couple of years, even more sometimes. And why this? Because many of our projects are on the edge, are borderline, okay? When you are on experimental territories, you know well from where you start, but not so well where you will arrive and when you will arrive, okay? But we think this is a strong incentive for our designers, because which designers would not want to face a very challenging, a very stimulating project? And perhaps this is also exactly why many designers want to work with us, and why the relationship with the designers we work with are long-lasting, okay? We work with them in a close, very close contact, and as soon as the designer accepts the briefing, we start the journey together. We like to say we grow together the baby, like a mom and a dad, okay? For each project, of course, there is a very frequent exchange of information and opinions every day, and about once a month, more or less, we meet. It depends from the complexity of the project, but more or less once a month, we meet either here at the Magis headquarters or at the designer's studio to check designs and prototype. As I said before, the idea, the process from the idea to the market goes through the construction of many different prototypes, where we used to check also the last millimeter. We like to solve very well also the underwear of the project. Okay, even if you don't see it, we call it the underwear. And then only when all the technical and aesthetic uncertainties are overcome, only then we start the construction of the equipment for the mass production. Today, one of the greatest quality of Magis is for sure eclecticism, okay? Eclecticism in the science, because many different designers with many different languages coexist in the same catalog. But eclecticism also in terms of material, okay? But to be eclectic with material, you must have a certain culture in the use of materials. There is a bon ton also in the use of materials. There is an etiquette in the use of material. It's very important that every material has to be treated with respect, has to be treated in the right way. And I believe we have this culture, and I hope it is visible in the products that we bring to the market. Okay, now we can start analyzing some of the most representative project that Magis has developed in the last years. We start with Spun, a very successful piece, very special to us also because it's one of the few projects that have been submitted to us. So it didn't arrive after a briefing. It began as personal inspiration of the designer, Thomas Hathaway, into the process of metal spinning. It's a very special object with a completely symmetrical form. that works as a chair, whichever way around it is rotated. He produced a very special limited edition in spun metal for a gallery. Here we can see also later some of the steps of the turning operation. Okay, basically you take the piece of metal, you load the metal on a spinning machine, and you deform the metal by hand. Okay, several parts are produced and welded together. There's a lot of manual work. So as you can imagine, the piece is incredibly expensive. When he showed it to us for the first time, we immediately fell in love with its design, that because it was so strange, so new, so different. Okay, the spirit was such a good spirit. So it was necessary for us to find an industrial way for its production. So we suggested to produce it in plastic using rotational molding technology, which is probably the only way to transform this limited edition object into something very industrial. Of course, due to the change of the technology, we had to adjust a little bit some details of the geometry, a bit also the ergonomy. This is the final prototype where ergonomy and design were approved. And then we started this is the mold. We started the tools for the production. Basically, rotational molding consists in pouring into an aluminum mold the material, which in this case is a plastic powder. Then the mold is brought into a heated room where it starts to rotate. The material starts to melt down and copy the walls of the mold. Okay, then you take off the mold from the room, you open the mold, and you get the final piece. This is the final product. This is a section of the piece. As you can see, there is a constant thickness of about 5 millimeters, the minimum material to guarantee strength and stability to the geometry. People always have a lot of fun on it. It is not only comfortable, but also surprisingly enjoyable to sit on it with its capacity to rotate and rock in 3 dimensions. This is a beautiful installation we did in, as Alberto was saying before, in Milano at the Expo 2015. This is the designer, Thomas Heatherwick. And now we're going to see a short video where he presents the project.
You feel your back stretching, your legs up, you get a different perspective on the world, and then come back round. Normally somebody gets terrified of going all the way around, and then realizing that they can. There's a sort of art to doing it. There was no intention to design a chair. We have all sorts of experiments and tests we've tried, many of which go absolutely nowhere. But the occasional times where things really come together, that moment is exhilarating. With this project, there was an idea, a proposition. Was there a geometry you could make that was rotationally symmetrical, that you could sit on and be comfortable in? Because if you could, you would be breaking down the typical seat, back, arm, front legs, back legs, which are all the ingredients you're used to seeing. The studio has at its heart a workshop, so the environment we work in has lots of examples of materials and techniques, forms and textures, and sort of experiential qualities of materials. We try and test from multiple viewpoints, and often that means we then have to shift and readapt. So you'll then distill it back to the essence of that idea. So we were using clay and plywood to try different geometries. And then gradually there emerged something that did seem to work. We approached Magis. We sent some images of our prototype. They responded immediately. They have really good vision to be able to spot when something will work. You stand it upright and it doesn't look like a chair at all. It's a confusing object. It only becomes a chair when you incline it. The detailing that we put into the surface, a bit like a vinyl record, has those fine ridges, because that then meant you wouldn't slide out of it, but it also meant you get all these lines of light catching. I enjoy when people try the chair, but very honestly, we hadn't really thought that we were making such a funny, different, playful form of rocking. You want to make out that everything's deliberate, but there are lovely things sometimes which are a surprise.
Very nice. Okay, Pina. Next one is Pina, designed by the Spanish Jaime Ayllón. Here, on the contrary, the brief was very, very precise. A chair in wire rope. You know, wire is one of the cheapest material you can find on the market. So here the challenge was to design a very rich and valuable chair using a very poor material. We've been squeezing for weeks, okay, squeezing our brain for weeks without big results, until one evening. Okay, I perfectly remember. This is actually a nice, a funny story. You love to listen. We were at the Jaime Ayllón studio after one working day, and we were super tired. Okay, no results, and we said, okay, let's go out and have a drink. Okay, then the drink became 2 drinks, then 3 drinks, then probably 4 or 5 drinks. And then, you know, you're there, relaxed, a bit loose. And we were sitting on a Chesterfield sofa, and suddenly we came up with the idea to imitate its capitone, you know, this kind of, that type of upholstery. And that was the click, okay? So this was one of the very first sketches we did. So the initial idea was to have 2 layers, one in and one out, okay? We made in wire, of course. We identify the size of the space between the rods, as you can see here, that can guarantee a good ergonomy. And we made immediately a super fast prototype. This was the file. This was the very first small prototypes, a sample, just to test a bit the feeling, okay? This was one of the first prototype made with a very cheap material, polystyrene, okay? Made not to check the design, but to have a very first impression of the idea. Very soon we realized that it was a little bit too much, okay? First, because of the weight. At the end is like to have 2 chairs in one on the back and one on the front, and then also cost-wise, too expensive. So we decided to go for only one layer, okay? But then we had a problem with the comfort because we didn't want to lose that fat effect of the capitone. So we said, okay, let's introduce cushions, okay, for seat and back. This is one of the first file, very fast, that we made, already quite close to the final one. This is one of the last prototype we prepared. And I perfectly remember the day we showed this prototype to the potential manufacturer, and he said, hey, Magis, you are crazy. You are completely crazy. How you can think to produce something like that? We knew that, of course, it was impossible to think to weld a piece like this by hand, okay? So they said, hey, if you want to go on and make it affordable, you have to invest a huge amount of money on an automatic robot that picks up the piece and weld it automatically. Hey, perfect. We believe a lot in the project. So when we believe a lot in the project, we are ready to invest a big amount of money. So everything started with a roll of metal rod that goes into a huge machine that spits out the rods from the other side with the geometry, with these little curves. There are more than 40 different pieces. Okay, so you can imagine this is a nightmare for those who have to program the machine. Then all the rods are loaded on a template, okay, and there is a robotic arm that picks up the template and automatically welds all the crosses, all the intersections. Maybe you will understand a little bit better the steps of the production in this short video. Okay, this is the finished product, okay, where we at the end we decided to give a warmer feeling using wooden legs, okay. Then of course Pina is also available with metal legs for outdoor use, and today is a big family that counts the rocking chair, the low table, a very generous low chair for indoor and outdoor version, okay. Last project we're going to see is Officina, okay, a very special collection in wrought iron design by the Burulek brothers. Wrought iron, the shaping of iron by hammering, is one of the oldest techniques for making objects. The brief was a real challenge, was to work with this ancient fabrication process and give it a new visual language, more contemporary, okay? I can assure you, and the Buruleks can confirm that, this was one of the most difficult challenges we have ever faced. Every one of us associates wrought iron to a certain kind of artifacts, you know, like this, like gates, railings, or details like this one. So to find the right path was a very long process, very long. We worked for almost 1 year on the chair, okay, without results. And you can imagine when you work for so long on something without results, that can be very frustrating, not only for us, but also for the designer. So at a certain point we say, stop, okay? Let's restart from zero, okay? Let's restart from a blank page, and not from the chair, but from the table, okay? We thought that maybe this would bring us to something good that helped to define the chair in the future, okay? And it went exactly like this. We will see it later. This is the moment where the light turned on, okay? That crashing at the cross of the roads and at the ends of the piece is a very typical of this technique, okay? And it's a common detail of all the entire collection. Here we are at the workshop of the company that produced for us the collection, and the company, the men that produced for us, they are absolute masters, okay, in handworking. But only few details of this collection is the result of handwork. I would say that the 80% is produced in an industrial way with a huge hammering machine. This is the first presentation we did in 2014 of a table collection. Wrought iron is not common in the design field. And we think this is the reason why Officina reached the success since the very beginning, okay? Because it's different. And when something is different, if you like it, it's difficult to find an alternative on the market, okay? And after the Salone of 2014, a harder challenge, design the chair, okay? Of course, this chair is not designed by us. This was a chair produced by our partner. And we took it not because of its design, but just to analyze some details and aspects like the weight, for example, the thickness of the parts. And then the question was, it is better to have the chair in only one material or more, okay? Well, we thought that a strong reason to introduce a second material could be to save weight, okay? And among the many proposals, I show you this, where we thought that maybe make the seat and back with elastic bands that basically has no weight could be an idea. Maybe a cushion on top, okay? This was one of the very first design, but again, it was not 100% convincing. Still too much metal. The weight was still too high. You know, a weight for a chair it's important, okay? So here, this is very important moment where we were looking at this version of the table and we thought, hey, maybe from this geometry of this table, we can get to arrive to something, okay? And so from there, with a change of scale and proportion, this was the stool, and we say maybe not bad, okay? And then from the stool, the step to the chair was quite easy. And this is the moment when you feel good. This is the right direction. We have something in our hand. We are convinced of that, okay? The amount of material is correct. The balance between the wrought iron and the rest is correct. And that's the moment where you start asking yourself, what could be the right material for seat and back? So we thought plywood, fine. Upholstery, fine too. But then it was the plastic that brought modernity to the chair, okay? And this is the final products. Then of course we have a version in leather, version which are covered, fabric, upholstered. Now the collection is very wide, okay? We have the chair, we have tables, we have a stool, we have a low chair, plywood, upholstered, another version of the table, low tables, coat stand, wool coat hanger, candlesticks, candle holder. The material is just really fantastic. And then we are also working on something else that probably will be ready within next year. This is a big tree candle holder. And then there is also a soft armchair with the ottoman and sofa, 2-seater, 3-seaters, and in all the pieces, the surface of the wrought iron is alive and imperfect, which lends the object a very special vibration, okay? The mechanical traces on the tools that gave them the shape are very unique features of these products where industry and craft melt together. And now we are going to see a beautiful video on the collection where you can see also some words of the designers.
Bon, c'est sûr qu'avec Magis, il y a une grande histoire qui est toujours liée en fait à un matériau et à une technique. Les techniques qu'il choisit sont des techniques qui ont beaucoup de saveurs, qui sont très fortes.
Qui sont des actions assez fortes et qui ne sont pas dans la délicatesse. C'est vraiment... Boum.
L'idea è nata ai Magis 2 anni fa circa, di fare qualcosa in ferro forgiato. Cioè la sfida era quella di inventare un linguaggio nuovo. Burolec, con il loro linguaggio garbato e delicato, sono i design giusti, va bene, per affrontare questo progetto.
La nature même du fer forgé, la nature même de cette technique est une technique imparfaite, très vibrante, très proche du dessin.
Le fer forgé, par nature, génère une forme d'irrégularité. Ça serait totalement illogique d'essayer de venir lisser en fait cette surface.
Le projet de Magis, c'est aussi un projet qui est presque un peu hybride, c'est-à-dire qu'on utilise une technique qui est quasiment artisanale pour en faire un projet qui se veut assez industriel.
E si vuole che sia questa quota di manifattura artigianale realizzata a livelli di alta qualità che in certo qual modo assuma la dominante estetica espressiva dell'oggetto. Non sono dei designer che sviluppano un design che io chiamo veloce, si mettono nettamente di traverso rispetto alle mode e poi cercano di fare un design che duri nel tempo e hanno sempre rivolto l'occhio verso il futuro.
Il faut trouver une géométrie qui nous permette de construire des tables, des chaises de différents formats. Donc cette logique constructive est vraiment venue de ce lien, c'est-à-dire une barre que l'on chauffe, que l'on presse à l'endroit précis où une autre barre viendra s'assembler. Donc on presse une barre, on presse l'autre, et c'est cet endroit de pressage qui sera à la fois le langage, qui sera la logique constructive de cette collection. La subtilité de ce projet est un peu là-dedans. C'est à la fois, il y a des gestes violents, assez durs, et c'est vraiment ce coin. Et en même temps, il y a l'usage minimum de matière, la finesse rend ce projet très délicat. C'est à mon avis un peu la force de ce projet.
Good. I hope you like that. I would have finished. So thank you very much for your attention, and looking forward to some questions.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Enrico. I think we can go ahead and stop the screen share, bring Alberto back in and jump into Q&A. Students, just as a reminder, you can go ahead and submit your questions. You'll find that function either at the bottom or top of your screen, just depending on the device that you're using to tune in today. One of the questions that we have, someone would like to learn more about folly, and I believe you have one of the miniature samples behind you if you want to bring that up to discuss it. Is it made in a similar process as Spun?
Yes, that's exactly the same process of Spun, exactly. This also was a briefing very precise that we gave to Ron Arad, okay? We wanted to design, to let him design a special sculptural bench for public spaces or for hotel, hall of the hotel, for the parks, okay? And well, we work with a very special manufacturer that is able to do a very, very big pieces in rotational molding. Actually, this is a scale model, but the real one is about 3 meters long. So it's more than 110 kilo of material of recycled plastic. So at the end, the shape is the result of a very, very long process of study together with the designer. It's a very successful piece, very sculptural, and we are very happy of it. Ron Arad, I remember at the beginning, was not super sure about the briefing because he said, hey, Magis, are you really sure that design a very big bench has sense, okay, in plastic? But then if you ask him, I think he's agreed that this is one of his best projects.
It's really very beautiful. Speaking of the objects behind you, can you walk us through some of the other things that we're seeing?
Sorry, say it again, please.
Would you mind showing us some of the other objects behind you?
Alberto, maybe you can talk a bit.
And this is an empty bottle. It's a wine. It's our wine. It's called Nero Magis. We started to make this wine in 2014. It comes from a very nice wine region, not far from where we are. This wine region is called Kalio, bordering to Slovenia. We're not experts at wines, but we love wine, so we decided to produce a wine, a red wine, which could be the Magis wine. So here it is, Nero Magis.
Perfect. One of the questions, in school we make products ourselves. How do you recommend we learn about manufacturing while in school, or is that something you think can really only be learned while on the job?
Well, of course, schools give you a lot, yeah. But then, also in my case, it was, I mean, when I started that internship in Magis, that was like a second university, you know. So when you have the opportunity to work with great people around you, that's incredible value, you know. So I mean, and then of course when you work, you are lucky enough to work close with great designers. Is not because they are big superstars, but because you really learn the real sense of design. Okay. And so for me, it was university was super good, super nice, but Magis gave me something that the company gives you something that the university cannot give you. Okay.
Absolutely. You gave some really great examples about the design process and different iterations that you go through. When you're designing something, how do you know when it's in its perfect form, it's ready to stop the design and iteration process and move over to start manufacturing?
That's a good question. I mean, as I told you before, the design process, it's a very long journey, right? It never happened that from the first proposal, from the first file we received from the designers, we went straight into production. Normally, to arrive at the end of the process, to be completely happy with the shape and with the final prototype, it takes at least 5 to 10 different prototypes. Okay, and then on the last one, before to say, okay, now we close the process, we are all in front of it, the company, the design team, collaborators, engineers, the designer, of course, and that's very important to be super sure that you close not only the aesthetic uncertainties, but all the technical uncertainties, okay? Because it could be that you start the tools, it could be that you start the equipment to make the mass production, and then after that, when they are ready, it takes another year, okay, to set all the things to get into production, okay? So it's very, very important to check all the last details until the very last millimeters on the prototypes.
Absolutely. And in that process, how does the business side negotiate with the design side of the company to balance out justifying cost of exploration, trial and error, in hopes of finding a product that is well received?
Well, we as a company, we are not worried about big investments when it comes to design, when it comes to engineering. Magis is all about design. Magis is all about the production processes. As a company, we are ready to invest because we think that to make a product which caters a large audience, you need to use technologies, and so we see no problems in investing a large amount of money in big molds when we think that technology is the best way to produce a given product.
And that also, sorry, Alberto, that also brings you, if you invest a lot of money in the process, that brings you to have a reduction of the cost of the piece. And that's a super strong reason, because only in this way you can arrive to a large public.
Exactly. So in a way, the bigger the investment is in the mold, you know, the cheaper the product can be. So we are prepared to invest that money. Yeah.
Absolutely, makes sense. How does digitalization affect daily products in terms of usage, excuse me, and production?
Well, of course, a lot, I would say. I mean, when I started 20 years ago, I remember the design team were in 4 people with only 1 computer, okay? And I perfectly remember how many hours I spent together with designers drawing by hand, right? So no computer. And also the same for the prototypes. At the beginning, you had to take your car, go to the model maker, shape by hand and control it. And then, you know, now today you push a button and in 2 days you have the prototype. Of course, that speeds up the process a lot. So, but we always like to take our time, okay? Even if after 1 year or 6 months, we are ready with the final prototype and we are all happy with that, we like to take it, put it there, and look at it after 1 week, after a couple of weeks, because surely you will find the details that can be improved, okay?
Absolutely, so true. Sadly, I think that's all the time that we have for today. We have so many questions left, but students, I want to assure you, we're going to work through those and get back to you after this with a follow-up to make sure all of your questions are answered. Alberto, Enrico, this has been incredible. I want to ask one final question. Are there any last words of advice that you'd like to give the students who are listening today?
Well, I want to say to them to be brave, okay? To be super brave. Don't be afraid to show ideas to the companies, even if they are crazy, okay? There will be always time to fly a bit lower, okay? So be brave, because here we are waiting for extraordinary project. You will be the new generation of designers. So we are here waiting for you, okay? So don't disappoint us, okay?
Great. Well, thank you both again so much. This has been incredibly insightful and really appreciate you taking the time. Students, thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about Magis, you can visit magisdesign.com or their Instagram at magis_official. If you'd like to learn more about Be Original Americas, you can visit beoriginalamerica's.com or our Instagram at beoriginalusa. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.